T minus 40 seconds. T minus 30 seconds. T minus 20 seconds. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Own it, own it, own it, Kong. I own it. It did.
Women's Wrestling Talk, the #1 women's wrestling show on the planet. Women's Wrestling Talk, the #1 women's wrestling show on the planet.
What's up, guys? I was really about to say happy Thursday, Friday. Today is Thursday. Wow. Happy Thursday. This is going to be we're going to actually be doing a lot more live interviews. So this is our second live interview, but the game plan is to do more of them because they're more interactive, and we just drop them the day of, which I prefer. That's how we first started. Long story short, this is Women's Wrestling Talk, the #1 women's wrestling show on the planet. My name is TK Trinidad, CEO and host of WWT, and I am not alone. The editor-in-chief herself is also in the house. It's like #1 and 2 for this very big interview. Please welcome Santana.
Hi, thank you for having me, TK. What's up, Jaychele?
Hello, I'm so excited to be here and talk with you guys.
And then you want to go ahead and introduce her, since you seem like you guys have a little bit of a relationship.
I just seen her on Twitter. I've seen her on Twitter. Like I said before we air, I was like, she's a hot commodity. Like she's doing her thing at the age that she is. She's so young. At my age, I was 17. I was, what was I doing? I don't know. I was in school, but she just graduated. So congratulations.
Yes. Thank you.
The Ricky Starks pose, diploma. So like I said, she's a hot commodity. You're not on Twitter, you don't know who Jaychele Nicole is. I don't know what you're doing with your life.
Well, that is completely correct. Speaking of being so young, I actually remember what I was doing at 17. I ran away from home at 17. So kudos to, I got a scholarship eventually, but here it is. Doing big things at 17. You have a whole documentary out, which is absolutely crazy and insane. It's a really great documentary. I got a chance to watch it, Wrestling with Whiteness. He just dropped it. There's a lot of views on it. I'm sure it's going to get even bigger. So, what's the feedback that you've received so far?
Yeah, I've received a lot of positive feedback. As expected, there's always going to be negative stuff. It is about diversity, so obviously people are going to have their own thoughts about it. But YouTube lets you remove comments, so that's what we do. But a lot of it has been really constructive too, about ways that I can make it better. Lots of people have been willing to help with the next edition. If I do continue to do another documentary, lots of people are willing to help make it better for next time. Lots of people are helping me with promotional stuff and graphics and all that stuff, and I'm very grateful for that. But all the criticism and stuff that I'm getting, I'm using to make my next project even bigger and better.
I love that. I remember seeing you on Twitter like months before, like maybe January, I think. And I remember you making a tweet about wanting to do this documentary called Wrestling Whiteness. I was like, wow, I think that'll be really dope to do, because as Black women and Black men in media or in wrestling or content creators, it's a lot difficult for us. Let's be honest. It's so difficult for us to be able to live in our truth and not have to be stereotyped or and have any type of negativity drag on because of, the color of our skin or the way that we speak or our slang, the way we dress. And a lot of times there are people who try to copy us and want to mimic us and want to be us, and they tend to fail, because Black people, we just have the sauce.
Period.
We
Yeah.
have the recipe. I don't care if we give it to you, it's not going to be the same thing. But I did watch your documentary as well. I know you featured so many people: Ricky Starks, Big Swole, Darius Lockhart, JDX. You just had so many people on there. So talk about, how did you go about selecting who you wanted to be a part of your first documentary talking about this?
Yeah, so the way it originally started was just a couple of interviews that I had already done that were kind of questions about blackness were sprinkled in throughout the interviews. So some of them you'll see are from the earlier days of when I was getting into podcasts and stuff. So like Shane Taylor was my first interview, and he was included in the documentary. All of the STP interviews I knew that I wanted to do off bat. I knew that I knew them to be included. I did a series of like ROH interviews right after their December pay per view. So that's where the Eli Isom interview also came from as well. Um, so I just did all of those together. And then after that, it was kind of more strategic and just thinking about, okay, who else do I want to include? I had to make sure that Swole was a part of it. One, because she's like my auntie, but two, just because she was one of the people that really helped me kind of establish what the documentary was going to be. Her story was a big binder for the whole piece, actually. Um, so I had to make sure she was in there. The Ricky Starks interview kind of just came out of luck. I reached out to AEW to see if they would be interested in helping me with the project, and they offered me Ricky, which I was so grateful for. So it was great to get to talk to him. Tasha was interested when I originally reached out to her, and then we just went through Impact to make sure that it was set up. And then from there, everybody else was kind of just me asking around to see, hey, do you know anybody else who's in these circles that would be interested in helping out with this? And then I also just got some connections from people that were following me on Twitter originally, or I just went out of the blue and I was like, okay, let me see if I can get this person. Let me just try. I'll tag them on Twitter. And that's how I got people like Caprice Coleman to say yes, JDX as well. So some was just luck, but yeah.
Yeah, those sliding into DMs, man. It works. You get surprised sometimes when people respond. It's like,
Yeah.
okay. You actually look at your DMs. Like it's so many opportunities have come through just sliding through people's DMs. So definitely kudos to you for having the wherewithal to do that. Because sometimes people are scared and like, I don't know what they're gonna do. I don't know what they're gonna say. But the only thing they can do is say no,
Yep.
and then
Yeah.
you just kind of move on. With that being said, what after everything is done, what was like your takeaway from this project, doing this project? Because it's a massive project. 2.5
Oh,
hours to put all that together is long. Like I look at 30 to an hour, 30 minutes to an hour as far as content, and I already get dizzy. So kudos to you for doing that. So what was your takeaway from after you were done this project?
yeah. This was my first time even like toying with a project this big. All my interviews kind of sit around 15 minutes to 30 minutes or so. Obviously, there's more or less depending on the interview, but um, it was also a really big project editing wise for me. And I was like, I have no idea what I'm really doing. So I was lucky to get some people to help me timestamp all the interviews so I could just start what I wanted from there. But then after that, it was more so just looking at, okay, who's going to be put into the documentary at what place. So it actually ended I edited it in sections. So the brotherhood and sisterhood section I edited first. I literally went in chronological order that you see in the documentary. But the other part that I loved the most, would say, was filling in the missing pieces. So like getting to speak a little bit here and there at the beginning of each section, making sure that that introduction was perfect. I worked so hard on that opening slideshow that like I was like, hallelujah. Once it came out perfect, I was very excited. Um, but I did a majority of everything by myself. And it was really just a challenge for me. I am always interested in trying new things and stepping out of my comfort zone. And a documentary was not at all in my comfort zone. But at the end of the day, it really showed me how much brotherhood and community and sisterhood, obviously, that there is within the wrestling community, especially the Black wrestling community, because everyone was so willing to just jump on this project, especially Darius Lockhart, who I've walked away with a new mentor from this project. He's so amazing and so kind, and he was a really big necessity. I forgot to mention him earlier, but he was a big necessity for me to have in this project. Him and his story was really crucial. So, and also just getting to learn all of their experiences. Like when I was in these interviews, I haven't watched the documentary back in full, and I refuse to because I have that thing with content where I just can't watch something once I do it. It just needs to just
Mm.
live out there.
Yeah.
Uh, but while I was in the interviews, I was learning so much, and I'm still like reflecting on all that stuff. Even after the documentary is out, I'm like having people like send me kind of like almost like their think pieces or their advice about the documentary and what they're thinking on it, and I'm still getting to reflect from it. So it's a great experience all around.
I think that's awesome. With like you said, we know like you being so young, it's like a challenge. A lot of people are kind of afraid of doing challenges, and with your 2 hour and like what, like 10 or 20 minute document, I mean that's like I know it took you from like the time you started up until like recently in May when you released it. I mean, that's just like, I mean, seeing that it's released and on that day, like, were you in a frenzy? Like, were you like nervous about like what the feedback would be? Like, today's the day, May 28th, it was dropping. It's like, all right.
Yeah. So I started the project back in January officially. And I finished editing everything by May 9th. So May 9th was the
Oh
day that I
wow.
actually finished the
Mm-hmm.
project. Um, and I took from the 9th to the 28th to show it to people that I respected first and people that were in the documentary and everything like that, people close to me so I could get their feedback. So when it came out, I would be like, okay, I already have the respect and I already have the advice that I want from the people that are close to me and the people that matter to me. So
Mm-hmm.
anybody else, if their opinion doesn't matter to me, I need to just leave it alone and ignore it. But I was really anxious. I am in general a pretty anxious person. So I was like crying. I was like, please, Lord, let this go in my favor. Like scheduling tweets, making graphics the same day, getting press releases out the day before. Like I was doing so much. And I was also graduating at the same time. Like I had just finished my senior speech. I was getting ready for like all my other graduation stuff. So it was a lot at the same time. Uh but I'm always up for a challenge. I'm a Leo. That's my zodiac sign. So I feel like that's always the energy that I bring to the table. Um, so I always try my best to kind of, I guess, continue to underestimate myself so I'm surprised when I over deliver.
I'm very outnumbered now because TK is a Leo. I'm very outnumbered right now.
I mean, we just awesome. Well, I mean, I really just I don't even know what to say. Obama's a Leo. Like, I don't let me go down the list. We're just awesome people. But I definitely, you know, get you when she's like, you just do it, and you do big things, and you're just like, all right, well, however it lands, but I've done it. Opposed to like waiting and procrastinating. We definitely don't procrastinate on stuff. So kudos
Yes.
with that. Um, where
Not at
we
all.
are, if you want to say something, Santana, say
No,
it.
listen. I'm a Cancer. I love Leos. You know, we're like close there a little bit. You know what I'm saying? So I never have no issue with Leos. I get along with a lot of women Leos. The men, yeah,
We don't include them.
we can go
They
ahead and
don't
find
count.
a side right now. You know.
Well, that actually makes sense why we work for him, like, because my brother's a Cancer. He's
See?
very like laid back. But anyways, away from the astrology, where we are, we often actually do talk about this topic a lot, as far as specifically being Black women in the industry and just seeing how they're treating in particular Black female wrestlers, and we can extend it to the men as well. See, project that's just focusing on that, did it come to a point where you just got frustrated kind of hearing these stories over and over again, because it's only as of recently that you're seeing more than one Black wrestler, Black female wrestler on the roster and stuff like that? So what was your process listening to these stories?
Yeah, so for me, I come from a way younger generation than most of the people that I interviewed. I started watching in 2014. So a lot of this stuff is kind of, at least more recently, the norm to me. Like I'm expecting to see representation across the board, even if it's not like the complete representation like we would wish for. I don't accept anything lower than what we achieved at WrestleMania 37. Um, so I also actually, funny enough, I used one of your guys' papers, features on being a Black woman in wrestling to write my senior thesis paper, which was a 16-page paper about being a Black female in wrestling. Um, So I feel like honestly I've become kind of numb to hearing about these experiences. Like I don't know how many interviews we did for the documentary. I want to say it was like near 20, and everybody didn't make the documentary. But I feel like throughout that process, as I was doing the interviews, it just more became more of the same to me. Like the experiences were so overlapping that every time I would hear it, I would be saddened that they had to experience it, but I wasn't shocked because I had heard it from another person, or that I had, like, I guess, inferred that that was somebody's experience. Um, so I feel like the longer that I'm um like exploring this field of diversity in wrestling, the more numb that I become, or the more I don't want to say like ignorant, but like it's not a surprise to me anymore. Like I can't feel the feeling for it because I've heard it so many times, and I obviously am disappointed every time and I'm saddened for them, but I'm not like as actively enraged as I was the first time. I'm not feeling the same amount of intensity in terms of my emotions because I know I cannot afford to do that every time, especially emotionally. I know I cannot do that for myself. So I just always try to be optimistic and look forward, and that was one of the big parts of the documentary for me. Was I wanted to make sure that a big chunk of time was dedicated to that ways to change portion, so there can be actionable results from the documentary. I've talked with a couple promotions so far that have already checked out the documentary, and they have kind of taken some steps already within themselves as a company, which I'm very grateful for and excited about. But as long as there's progress, I have no issue dealing with the negative side.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, what is that you really can expect when you're black in wrestling or anything that deals with any occupation? You're always going to deal with something. You know, sometimes, like you say, you do become numb to it. Sometimes you choose to sit to ignore it and just sometimes see how things play out because you constantly speak on the same topic over and over again, and you end up draining yourself because you're
Mm-hmm.
trying to fight for everybody, even when they're not even trying to fight for themselves. You know, so like it's a difficult thing to deal with. You spoke about like a lot of people that didn't make your documentary. So if you plan on doing like a docu series, maybe would you include them, and would you include some new people?
Yeah, I mean, I could spill a little bit. So we did a Kenny King interview that didn't quite make it, but that's because I wanted it to be more up to date because he had recently transferred, I guess, or moved over to Impact, and that was for when he was back at ROH. So I was like, I kind of don't want to put it out because it's not too up to date anymore.
Right.
So if I do include anybody like that, I would have to do a new interview with them. There's also other people like Josiah Williams that I didn't get to get an updated interview with. Um, I already have AJ Francis penciled in for the next piece. I don't know what we're doing yet. I have an idea of what it's going to be about. I'm thinking it's somewhere along the lines of Black culture and wrestling, and how it's how Black culture and the hip hop culture in general has interwoven with wrestling over the years. So that would include people like Swerve, um, Leo Rush as well, and I've had some conversations about getting them in it already. But we shall see what happens. I don't want to make any promises yet, of course, but I do have some things in mind, and I'm excited for what the future holds. But I would definitely have to do updated interviews if I were to include anybody if that didn't make the cut. Because most of the reasons that I didn't include their interviews in the first place was because they were already out of date when I had made the documentary. So.
Well, we're gonna manifest that make this into a docu series because it
Okay.
should.
You did mention hip hop and wrestling, and I know he's not black, but I feel like you can make this happen. Ric Flair has seemed to be in like, I don't know,
No.
him, and I mean I'm sure he's being X Pac, but X Pac is also in a lot of rap songs. If you could manage to just, because he was in the Migos video, like if you could just manage to like just get him on an interview and just pick his brain to see how much he really knows about hip hop, or is he just like,
Oh, that.
showing up? Obviously, there's an age difference, so he might know, might know a little bit, but I would really be interested in, his component. He doesn't necessarily fit the demographic, but I'd love to see you do an interview with him because his name or his saying is just on every rap song,
I mean, that is very
even
true. There's a
today.
whole song about him, so that is very fair. I mean, for
Interesting,
that
but
matter, I would also be interested in talking with people in the music industry, especially like people from Griselda, about their connection to wrestling as well.
Yeah.
Um, and I've thought about that a little bit as well. And obviously, if I do that documentary, I have to get Max Caster in on it. So we got
Of
to see how that
course.
happens. But
He's number one when it comes to the lyrics.
yeah,
Every week, I'm looking to see exactly whether he's on Dark, Rampage, Dynamite. I'm looking forward to see what he's going to say. Even if he's on the Indies doing the show,
mm-hmm.
I'm looking forward to see what they're going to try to censor, what he has to say, because he definitely gets a little I want to say interesting
Yeah,
with his
that's
lyrics.
one way to describe it. Yeah.
He does. He a little interesting. So I know you said like you don't never necessarily know what the future holds, but let's kind of just talk about a little bit about you outside of the documentary. I mean, you and just get into wrestling at 20 and with 2014. I mean, there was such a different dynamic of wrestling and things that transpired during those time up until now. Who were some of the black wrestlers that you may have loved, despite maybe some of the stereotypes within their characters? Like, what are some that you actually thoroughly enjoyed watching?
I always loved Naomi. I was always a Naomi fan. I will always be a Naomi fan too. Um, but as I evolved, Sasha Banks was always my favorite. I named my dog after her. Like I have a dog named Sasha Banks. Um, but yeah, she's always gonna be such an inspiration to me. Her and Naomi were like my girls. Team Bad used to be my thing. I wanted to be an honorary member of Team Bad. And
You
then
gonna push
obviously,
Tamina out the way?
huh?
You just gonna push Tamina out the way?
I mean, Tamina's Tamina. But I more recently I've fallen in love with Bianca Belair. She actually gave me a cameo at the beginning of quarantine.
Mhm.
Um, that basically said that I inspired her. So I've always kind of had her as my number one interview. I have to interview her before I die. I cannot quit the wrestling business or whatever before I interview Bianca. So I'll get there eventually. But Bianca's always my number one now. She surpassed Sasha surprisingly, but yeah, Bianca's my
Wow.
number one.
I've had this conversation many times about we bring up Sasha and Bianca and their match for WrestleMania 37. I thought that was the most amazing thing ever. And even during that time, I had a chance to speak with Bianca Belair, even if it was only for just 2 freaking minutes. I thoroughly enjoyed talking to her about the representation of her and Sasha Banks
Yeah.
for this WrestleMania. Your first time ever, two black women main eventing. It takes us to get to 2021 for this to transpire. Out of all the black women we've had before,
Mm-hmm.
those two are history makers. They will go down as being history makers. Bianca's the first woman to go, like, kind of black woman to go back to WrestleMania and win. I just hope she has a lengthier reign and gets past SummerSlam, because I'm not trying to do what happened last
She's
year.
gonna do it. She's gonna do it. We're
Yes,
good this year.
I'm telling you, SummerSlam is coming up. I don't want to go there fighting nobody over there.
I got PTSD this time. They cannot do that to me.
Listen,
Yeah, they don't care about our feelings. So I mean, I've been saying that since summer. They don't care about us. So just get ready. Just get ready. That's all I gotta say.
yeah, get ready, but still, I'm trying to go on with high hopes. I mean, she made it past Backlash, made it past Hell in the Cell, Money in the Bank.
We praying.
I believe she's gonna make past. I think her and Rhea Ripley gonna have a great match. Honestly, they done it at NXT. I'm pretty sure on the main roster is a little different because Bianca's a babyface and Rhea is a heel. So I'm thoroughly going to enjoy seeing their matchup.
It's gonna be a good match. It'll be good.
I agree. It is.
But I think, again, these are like conversations we have all the time on Women's Wrestling Talk, where it's just kind of, and somebody mentioned it in your documentary as well. It's like you can, I forgot who it was, but he was saying pretty much you can fire everybody and just have a whole roster of black folks. And if there's nobody behind the scenes actually helping to tell the story, it's always going to be something that's a little bit off. It's just, you have, a few people who they grew up in a multicultural area, so they understand the dynamics of, people of color, but the majority of people haven't. So when you have older white men and I've from what I've heard, there might be one lady back there. Them kind of writing for Black folks, we're gonna get what happened to Sasha and Naomi, and that's why I kind of almost, when I think of Bianca, like I don't think that her status is gonna change because she's a superstar no matter what. But the ups and downs, she's gonna be the sacrificial lamb to somebody like a Becky, to somebody like a Charlotte whenever she comes back, if she comes back. So it's one of those things where, I hope, but then it's like
Not the way they
you
got,
can't.
not the way these rumors going around. I don't know, honey. Yesterday I was in a frenzy. There was a lot going on in the wrestling world, and I said it was crazy. I, I was like, child, I thought we was gonna wake up this morning with some news, but we didn't. So we
I
finally have a normal day.
I'm actually going to
World.
school for diversity, equity, inclusion. That's actually my major.
Mhm.
And I honestly really hope to be able to find a position or probably make a position in the wrestling world to work at one of those major companies and provide some actual advice on what inclusion is supposed to look like on TV. And obviously, sometimes the way you got to put your foot in the doors, you got to make it a little bit easy on them, and then you have to push more and more. But
Mhm.
uh, I'm very hopeful towards the future as we move forward. I feel like there's going to be more and more pressure to make sure that the environments backstage are not only more inclusive, but the way that we see them on TV and the way that the performers are reflected on camera is also inclusive of their communities and their backgrounds and what they're meant to represent.
I agree because I feel like if like TK said, like you kind of know when there's someone representing us backstage. And even though they may be back there representing us, they may not be having enough people behind them to be that support system and be that shield, that force
Hmm.
to really push their privilege to help someone who is struggling.
Hmm.
We've had so many different creatives dealing with, black characters and black wrestlers on the show, the gimmicks, the stupidest things they had them doing that didn't make any sense. So, so many types of the mad black woman or the crazy one with how they used to do Alicia Fox. I mean, Alicia Fox was a crazy talent. Like I think first and only black diva champion.
Yeah.
She did a lot within her time being a diva. Even when all the other counterparts are kind of just floating around, just getting by in the ring, she was really doing her work. You didn't have that many like that until like Naomi came around again.
Hmm.
And we started to see a little bit more. We got even before him, we had your Jazz, and your Jacqueline. We had those, but there's always been like that gap where we have like maybe one or two black women here. Years go by, don't see any. We'll have another one. Years go by. It's like a constant cycle, and now we're back to just one black woman on the main roster.
Well, social media, and the beautiful thing about social media is that it connects. Like I feel like Black wrestling Twitter that really exploded in the last maybe 5 years. Where you have Black Wrestle Fest that's happening this weekend. Like you have wrestling promotions that are you can walk in there and you can feel at home and the storylines make sense and stuff like that. That's something that's coming about, and I wrestle with the fact that maybe you can let me know as well. Is do we need just a Black wrestling promotion to tell our story so we don't, like, I mean, we're always gonna get frustrated because it's just politics with everything, but do we need like a Black wrestling promotion that is popular and mainstream that we can watch and we can see those storylines, or do we just keep on every week? I feel like it's almost like we're the abused partner. Like every week we watch and we either hear something or
Mm-hmm.
watch something like that Sasha and oh my god, I forgot Sonya Deville storyline had, I feel, almost every Black woman for in at arms. So it's just kind of like, do we need to go that route, or do we essentially Public Enemy, fight the power, and force our way in?
I also kind of go back and forth on this idea. I feel like it's all up to performers because I feel like as much as an all black wrestling promotion would be beneficial, especially if it was able to reach the same levels as the WWE, AEW, even an Impact. It's always going to be up to the performers. I always think about how certain performers may be WWE lifers or may want to end up in WWE because that's what they saw growing up and that's what they dreamed of. So until we're able to change the tide of what's regular in wrestling and what people's goals are, which I feel like is obviously kind of hard to change because obviously people have their individual goals and individual personalities. But once we do begin to show that you can achieve the same amount of success on another platform like this that is solely focused on people who look like you and people who achieve um, authentic representation, then people will be more likely to say, okay, forget that dream. Let me go here where I'm accepted. And I feel like even people who do have that dream will eventually be willing to forego that dream or whatever it may be to work at a company where they feel more accepted. Um, but regardless of like how it may be different between people, I think that there are already a bunch of black wrestling promotions that could use more support. Um, and I feel like we don't even have to start from scratch. I feel like we don't even have to pick one. We could just pick them all and then just support them way more and be more focused and be more strategic about how we do support them, and make sure that people are being held accountable for supporting them as well.
I agree, and I know we go back to your documentary, talk about the content creators you had on there. I know TK brought up Public Enemy, but the Public Enemy that we know in the wrestling world, they are some crazy characters. I say they have one of the best engagement when it comes to memes. It's just like everything they post just like fits perfectly. So when you were speaking to like getting those content creators, I know you had Victor Taylor Perry who does the wrestling club, which I think is so amazing. With them having to have the chance to meet Sasha Banks and have people like Carmelo Hayes in their corner and so many people like showing the kids, which I'm still jealous to this day because I didn't have a wrestling club growing up, and I really wish I did. So how did you get in contact, and connect with them, and how do you deal with them over there at Public Enemy Podcast?
Well, they're
How do
all like
you
my
how do you deal with them?
they're all like my big brothers over there, so they always will do anything for me. Victor is also like another big brother. Me and him have been connected for a while. I want to say over like 3 months or so. We've been talking, and he was a last minute addition. Literally an hour before I finished the documentary, I was like, Victor, I need another person for this. Can you please send me a video? And I actually had to convince him that he was a content creator because he didn't see himself in that way. He thought, oh, I just post videos, and I was like, no, you actually make content that influences people and all that stuff. And then Will has always been like a dad to me. Uh, he does the Day After Dynamite show, but he's actually like another dad to me online. He's always so supportive. And Scotland as well. Scotland was great. I was very excited to get to have him and feature him. Malcolm, we actually did an interview with him for his channel, and then I was like, hey, do you want to do this for me? So he was really great about that. And Sat Nyangi from Russell Talk, amazing, amazing guy. Done a couple shows with him already. But he's always so down for the cause and is so engaging too, even in that story that he told. Great person. Everybody that I was able to feature in the documentary was amazing, and I have personal relationships with all of them.
I love that. It's all about connecting and working with people. It's not just like making it like something that you have to do, but it's like building those connections and being able to keep those connections.
Mm-hmm.
Just like your resources, if they help you, you can help them in any kind of way, and I think that that's great. I feel like literally maybe what, like 10 years from now, you're probably going to be like one of the biggest like media, black women in media, like coming out, like, because you're coming in strong. There's not too many people. A lot of people are lazy, and you're really showing passion for it, and it shows.
Thank you. I really appreciate that.
She slept Leo energy, just saying.
She's true.
I didn't say anything. I'm just scratching my head.
Oh goodness! All right, so let's move. Well, we're still gonna tie it in, but Juneteenth is here, and again, I kind of want to just get your perspective and your opinion on this. Being from Canada, it's a little bit different. We don't celebrate Juneteenth, different history, etc. But with that being said, it is a national holiday. So that means everybody is going to be off. What is your well, I mean,
I mean, they don't like me. They don't like us a little bit enough to let us off. So, but here we are.
the bank people at banks are off, and
I don't
I don't
work
know what the percentage. I don't know what the percentage of how many black people are at the banks,
in the bank.
but they're going to be
That
a lot
many.
of people off.
It's not that many that work in the bank that's black. Not after that Set It Off
Yeah.
movie. I will never work in a bank. I got scarred. It's like, no, no, I'm good.
Like, what's your feeling on that? Because that's another thing that I wrestle I wrestle with. Excuse the pen. I wrestle with. It's like, okay, because to me, it's literally this is like a big season personally, and then just business wise. There's a lot of festivals, there's a lot of picnics, there's a lot of barbecues, all that stuff that we're celebrating this that's happened within the community. But now it's a national holiday, which I feel like they're trying to placate versus reparations, but that's a personal thing. But what's your feeling on it?
Yeah, as TK knows, my background is in activism. I was actually a part of helping the Rhode Island version of the Juneteenth holiday get signed into law or whatever it may be. Um, but I've always kind of felt like making it a holiday seemed incredibly performative, especially at the time that it happened. Obviously, it's an incredibly important day, but I feel like the timing that it happened at was very performative, and was used to show, okay, we made progress and that's all that we're going to do, instead of there being actionable steps being taken to find healing within the black community. Because once you make it a day, what else are you going to do to help
Mm-hmm.
the black community? There's nothing else. It's just simply, okay, well, we made it a holiday. Now Walmart can make all these different cups and plates about blackness that have no black people um, featured, or were made with black people in mind even. um, it I just rolled my eyes, but it's a mixed bag, I guess. I'm excited to see black people celebrating it. Those are the people that should be celebrating it. But you obviously can't go to a bank and say only the black people at this place can get the day off because it's a black holiday. Once it's made a holiday, it's a holiday for everybody, even if it's performative or not.
Yeah, I knew that when they started to make it a holiday, it doesn't have much of a meaning anymore because I believe when they did it was during the time I think what 2020, right? When they
Right
made it
after
out
George,
during the whole
right
time
after
was
George
George
Floyd.
Floyd. So I mean like and I know you were like, you were like the front person for like the march and everything and stuff like that, which I think is amazing too. Because it was nice during that time. We really saw a lot of our younger generation really out there, like pushing the needle, not quoting refrains or whatever, but really pushing something out there to stand up for what is actually wrong. To this day, I think the whole situation with George Floyd is just still distasteful. It's awful. Sometimes you can still just see the video in your head, and it's grateful that now that even he's getting his justice now, but it just seems like even after the fact, it's like that's great, but he's no longer here. His daughter won't be able to grow up without her father because of stupidity.
Mm-hmm.
So I commend you on being someone who chose to be involved. Like I want to
It's
ask you,
not
like, how
mine.
did you get involved? What made you want to step into this activist position? Because it's very tough to deal with, especially when you have those who are against it.
Yeah, I've been an activist for 5 years, going on six. So since I was 12 years old, I've been involved in the community. I joined a youth organization when I was 14 years old, and I kind of just began to form connections within the community to people within the government, people within the private sector of business, that were in control of different things, policy people as well. But right around the time of George Floyd, I had been kind of almost like forced out of my youth organization for reasons beyond my control. But there were a group of young people that I knew from like school almost, like I want to say five people or so that wanted to hold a protest. And then I was the only one that really had experience, like kind of organizing, because I had done events in the past, like concerts and stuff like that. So I kind of just had to step up at the time, and I was not ready at all. But like I said before, I love a challenge. So I kind of just forced myself into the spotlight almost, and kind of just decided to refine my craft. And that's when I kind of began to focus on my public speaking. I watched hundreds and hundreds of speeches from Obama, Michelle Obama, uh, Martin Luther King, just to try to not even mimic their style, but just learn from them. TED Talks. Oh my God, I cannot tell you how many TED Talks I've watched in my life. Um, but I always was interested to see the ideology of these leaders and how they were able to form a trusting base of governmental leaders and things like that. I was able to form great connections, and from there, I was just, I want to say, unstoppable almost. I was able to fundraise $10,000 for my youth organization within about 4 months or so. Over the course of 1 year with my other youth organization, I fundraised over $40,000. Um, so I've always kind of just been, I guess, a person who takes action, but it was just like the right time, right place for me.
I love that.
So before we get out of here, so there's a possible second version, or some kind of version with the interviews in the making. But what do you hope for, wrestling, as far as, Black folks in wrestling? What are you hoping to see out of this after this documentary is done? What was your like? Okay, this really sucks. You've heard all these stories. What do you want to see?
Well, my main goal from the documentary was to see individual support for all the wrestlers featured, because some of them were incredibly open about stories that they did not have to share. So I wanted to do my best to make sure that they were protected. I always said at the beginning of my interviews, if it's going to get you in trouble, don't say it. Like I want you to be as careful about your career and your reputation as possible, because obviously they are Black wrestlers, so there are at more of a chance of losing their position or losing bookings or whatever it may be from it. But I wanted to make sure that they were secure, so I wanted to make sure that people were able to support them and support the wrestlers that were featured. And then from there, I also wanted to just expand the minds of people who are not Black in professional wrestling, or who may even be Black and don't fully comprehend all the issues behind being Black in professional wrestling. And I wanted it to reach people that are higher up within companies and promotions, which it did. I've heard back from a few promotions and such, like I said before, that have kind of taken the documentary into account and have kind of given some wrestlers opportunities because of it. But I wanted to expand almost like not even the amount of bookings that the wrestlers were able to get, or Black wrestlers in general, but expand the amount of vision that they were able to get in general, whether that be on social media, whether it be through their bookings, meet and greets, whatever it may be. But make sure that they were able to find support within the community, and that make sure that their network grows as well, of people that they can reach out to and people that will support them as well.
Well, there. For people who haven't seen the documentary, where can people find the documentary?
Yes, you can go on YouTube and search up Wrestling with Whiteness. It should pop up, or you can just search my name, Jaychele Nicole. It's also plastered all over my Twitter.
Joining us. Like I said, the documentary was well needed, inspirational. It's nice to see kind of the cohesive of certain things we talk about on different shows for Women's Wrestling Talk, kind of all in one, where we can just refer people to, like, all right, just I'm not gonna go over this. Just watch the documentary. So thank you for putting that together, and having that big Leo energy, and making it happen in less than a year. I mean, there are people who like talk about it, and they talk about it for years. And the fact that you're 17, you could be doing a lot of other things, and you're focused. That Leo energy.
Yes.
So. So congratulations to you. Thank you for coming on the show. And we just, as you're more than welcome to come on the show anytime you like to discuss whatever. We have plenty of shows that you can come on, so just let us know. But yeah, thank you again for hopping on.
Yes, thank you so much, guys. This was amazing.
Of course. Have a good time.
Yes.
Rest of your day, Jaychele. I'll be
Yes.
seeing you around on Twitter.
Yes.
A little bit.
Yes, thank you, guys.
And before we get out of here, Miss Editor in Chief, where can everybody find you?
Oh, per usual, you can Google me, Driune Santana, Driune. That's the only way you're gonna find me. Okay. Um, I'll be on everywhere else, but if you want to know who I am and what I've done in the years, you can Google me.
Wow.
Why do y'all want to use my stuff on me? Like, what is wrong with y'all?
There and
I
like
use the Jennifer Lopez Let's Get Loud. Okay, that is my thing. That is what I do, and I utilize it because Nikki
on the
hates it.
shows. I just hop in and out, so I feel like I have carte blanche to use it, and the timing, like it just seemed perfect. So I'm just, it is what it is. For you guys who are watching, if you want to watch the rest of our shows, we have a lot of shows happening tonight. Gosh, we have NXT and NXT UK happening in about 15 minutes. We have Creep Squad After Dark also happening. We have Impact After Show happening tonight. Tomorrow we have SmackDown and AEW. Saturday we have Saturday we have our indie show. Sunday we have an Impact show. And it just continues and continues. If you want to find everything, we are live on Twitch. So go and check us out there. We're also on all other platforms, WW Talk Pod. Go and check out our TikTok. Our TikTok is popping. So shout out to Katrina for that. Other than that, you can find me on everything at TK Trinidad. Thank you again so much for hopping on the show. Till next time, guys. Ciao.
Women's Wrestling Talk, the #1 women's wrestling show on the planet.